I'm Brenda Mahoney with ACMi News, and I'm joined by Julia Minson, an Arlington resident and mother of three, who has turned her home into sewing mask making, fabric masks for those in need. So Julia, thank you for coming on and taking the time to tell us how this kind of all came about and what you've been up to. You got really kind of into it quickly, it appears.
Thanks very much for having me, Brenda. Yeah, so we started. My husband and I started working from home a couple weeks ago, and we're sort of very fortunate to be able to do that. And of course, when the Arlington schools closed, we had our daughters at home, and I was reading the news and sort of starting to understand the magnitude of the crisis and kind of the magnitude of the need for personal protective equipment. And I just really felt like we should be doing something. And I felt very challenged by, well, what could we do given that we are at home? And I remembered, I have an old sewing machine that I haven't used in 15 years. And one of my daughters has been after me to teach her to sew, which I don't have time for in my real life. And so I thought, hey, this is something that we can do that is a contribution, will teach the kids a new skill, will teach them about sort of the social problem that we're facing and the economic problem that we're facing and some of the history that's, related to these types of situations. And will frankly give me something to do that makes me feel productive and makes me feel like I'm contributing to a solution instead of just waiting for whatever's coming down the pike that I have no control over.
How is it going? How many are you able to make, and where are they going?
So my kids and I have decided that we're going to produce 20 masks a day. So lots of other people from around Arlington have just been leaving completed masks on my front porch. So I would say at this point, we're close to 500 masks having been produced and probably, over 400 distributed. Most of those have gone to individual care providers, have gotten connected up with a group of people in Somerville who sew for the Cambridge Health Alliance hospitals. So those hospitals are accepting homemade masks if they're made according to specifications.
The town of Arlington itself is looking for the fabric masks for seniors and housing.
Right. So part of what has motivated me to become sort of so engaged and be so careful with my family is that my grandmother lives with us and she's 90 years old and she has been sewing too. And for somebody that age, this virus is incredibly dangerous, and she sort of chuckles about how she survived World War II, in Russia, starved as a child, made her own clothes. And here she is in the United States, at risk again, from something completely unexpected like this. So I think it's really important to try to protect our, very vulnerable elderly people.
Can you show us a little bit of what the finished product looks like?
Yes. So here's one that's sort of mostly finished. We don't quite have the ends tied off, but it looks like this, right? So
it's got three tiers, the vents or the tiers that you call them.
Yep, exactly. So we got the 3 tiers, and then it's got a pocket on top that you can add an extra filter to. There is a wire that's sort of sewn in here that you can bend it around your nose so it sort of shapes to the contour of the face better. If folks are considering doing this themselves, I recommend starting with a checkered fabric because the lines make it easier to cut things evenly. Sort of simple things I've learned in the last week, but this is what we're going for.
Thank you so much for sharing your story of how you're making a difference, you and your family, a whole family affair, it sounds like. Thank you so much for joining us. And Julia, on behalf of ACMi News, I'm Brenda Mahoney.